is St. Anthony's Well. The water of the spring, long reputed to have healing powers, is surrounded by a stone enclosure large enough to accommodate an adult bather. Steps lead down into the water, which is over a metre deep and icy cold even on the warmest days. The water is said to heal skin diseases, although to receive the full effects of the cure, the afflicted must bathe at sunrise on 9 successive days within the month of May. Adjacent to the well, a stone supported by a low wall forms a sort of altar where offerings are often placed by visitors. Now let's read about this curious cave. This is King Arthur's cave at Great Doward, found in woodland close to the Welsh border. King Arthur's cave is said to contain treasure that was concealed there for safekeeping when Arthur was being pursued by his enemies. The wizard Merlin cast a spell over the cave so that the treasure could never be found. This large limestone cave has 2 interconnected entrances leading to 2 main chambers called the Bear's Den and Lion's Cave, after the ancient animal remains found there. One of numerous caves in this area of the Wye Valley, King Arthur's Cave was once inhabited by Neolithic people, but it was the Iron Age Celts who built Little Doward Hill Fort on the hill above, which became associated with Vortigern, the tyrannical warlord of Arthurian legend. A medieval legend tells of King Hela, an early Briton who once ruled these lands, possibly from this very hill fort. One day, a strange little man arrived at his hall, claiming that he too was a king, and that if he could attend King Hela's upcoming wedding, then Hela would receive an invitation to his own wedding in return. King Hela agreed, and the little king attended the wedding, returning a year later as promised to escort Hela and his men to his own wedding. The entrance to the little king's land was through a cave in a cliff that led deep into the hill, finally emerging into a magnificent chamber with magical lights. The wedding feast continued for 3 days, and Hela and his entourage were bestowed with countless gifts, one of which was a bloodhound. As Hela prepared to leave, the little king warned that none of the men should dismount from their horses until the dog jumped down first. When they finally emerged from the cave, Hela and his men encountered a shepherd and asked how the kingdom had fared in their absence. The shepherd could barely understand them, as he was not a Briton, but a Saxon. The Saxons had taken over the king's lands 200 years ago, but the shepherd said he'd heard an old story of the last British king being led away into the lands of Faery. Shocked at how much time had passed, some of the men forgot the little king's warning and jumped down from their horses, but as soon as their feet touched the ground, they crumbled to dust. King Hela and his remaining men were forced to keep riding forever, their ghostly passage spurring on legends of the wild hunt throughout the land. They would perhaps still be riding now, had they not encountered an armed band during Henry II's reign, who forced the The story of old Mother Darkley could be a memory of the ancient Celtic crone goddess, or even of the goddess Diana, who leads the wild hunt. The mist that sometimes cloaks the hill is said to be a portent of bad weather, and an old rhyme states, "When Breedon Hill puts on his hat, ye men of the vale, beware of that." Near the north-facing summit of the hill, on the edge of a Celtic hill fort known as Kemerton Camp, has a strange rock formation called the Banbury Stone. It is said to hide buried treasure, and also to go down to the River Avon to drink when the bells of Pershore Abbey strike midnight. In former times, people would ascend Breedon Hill on Good Friday and kiss the Banbury Stone for luck, and the stone itself was thought to have healing properties. Okay, let's have a look a bit further. Wow, look at these caves. Okay, so this is number 19. It's called Lud's Church at Algrave. So this is Staffordshire. Steep stone steps lead down into the chasm known as Lud's Church, a deep and narrow cleft in the landscape that is imbued with legend. The cleft runs for over 100 metres through woodland known as the Black Forest, bordering the River Dane. Direct sunlight rarely penetrates the depths of this chasm, where verdant mosses cling to high walls that are peppered with little caverns and crevices. With such dramatic surroundings, it is little wonder Lud's Church has become steeped in myth and folklore. Fairies living in caverns below ground are said to come out and dance at dawn. There have been reports of strange lights seen floating in the air, and of numerous apparitions the story, she caused a stream to swell to block her pursuer's path. She later became the protectress of the river Corve, which she miraculously caused to flow. All these stories